Voices with Blake.
Listen and watch
Voices with Blake.
on Dan Blake TV on YouTube.
Yes, so it's Voices with Blake. Once again, we're back again for episode 4 of the podcast. And it's always a pleasure to be joined by another great person just from the phone book, you know, a natural friend in real life. And he just come to sit down and have a conversation with me, man, just about his legacy and his testimony, man, because I always like to showcase people's achievements in life and their up and coming journey and how it's been on the road, you know. So right in the studio right now, I want a big round of applause for my guy DJ Gully in the house. What's going on, sir?
Yes, big up. I'll just give I'll give a solo clap. I'll give a solo clap.
Yeah.
No, thanks for having me on, brother. Thanks for having me on. Yeah, good to see you. I'm basically between Glasgow and London, so it's nice to see you in this sort of environment.
Yeah, it's a nice setting, right? Just something different, you know. It's just about conversations, kicking it.
Yeah.
So how you been though, man? How's everything?
Yeah, good. Just as I said, between both cities, and I think after lockdown, I think London was still cool for me, but I thought actually, you know, we have opportunities to work remote, and there's other cities that are offering a kind of bite-sized experience of London, and I've still got my London connects. So yeah, I've kind of, I've moved things about a little bit in my life, but I can't complain. Everything is good, man.
Yeah, bro. You know, and let's take it back a bit to the beginning, because I just want to know some of your early upbringings that got you into the whole, you know, producing, DJing, you know, presenting kind of energy. Like, what's the early Gully? What was early Gully like? Just take you back to, say, I don't know, 10 years ago.
10 years ago was off. I certainly remember I used to drink a lot of alcohol, which I've kind of put to bed now. But in terms of like 10 years ago, it was pretty much moved to London. Had only worked in call centres in Glasgow for the last like 5-6 years before that. I had no real qualifications. I did have qualifications. I went to uni and whatnot, and I had a degree in music business.
Okay, I didn't know that.
And I studied radio at college. I went back to college because I realised that working in call centres was not for me. Fair enough, people can make a lot of money from it, but I wasn't doing commission-based jobs. Anyway, done radio at college, and then managed to get some experience at BBC Scotland.
Okay.
And then there was a competition to get, not a competition, somebody put it towards me at BBC Scotland that One Extra at that point. And this was back in 2009, where taking applications for a creative traineeship, and I decided to apply for it, and I think out of like 1,000 people, I was whittled down to the last 10, and I got a placement at One Extra as a trainee, let's say, assistant producer, and then I spent 2 months in London, and that was the first real taste. And obviously I was DJing in Glasgow, but in terms of being in an environment where it was like as close to the hub of like let's say black culture and music and whatnot, that was the first taste of it. Was in 2009. So yeah, that was
Mad.
very, very lucky.
And like, you see, when you first enter them buildings for the first time, it feels like the Mecca, don't it? It feels like, it's like, even you get a sense of starstruckness at first.
Yeah,
you're actually in the building. It's quite magical, I would say. That
yeah,
building, you know?
it is, because you got to remember, like, being from Glasgow, our like, well, especially with like the black music scene, there was certainly DJs that were doing it in the clubs and whatnot, but we never really had an infrastructure in terms of like as in London, you would see like constant performances. You know, you'd be connected with pluggers and PRs and that whole world of radio. You know, there was a couple of stations in Scotland that might have played bits and pieces, but when I came to London for that work experience, I was like, this is crazy. I'm at this station that is playing black music like 24/7, and there's like, you know, Tim West with Trevor Nelson and Mr. Jam at that point, and Rampage, who are obviously still there, and yeah, so it was very, very, very starstruck, because a lot of people, certainly from Scotland, would be like, oh, Radio 1, but I was like, don't really care for Radio 1. You know, certainly presenters there that are top talent, no doubt, but in terms of the culture, it was like One Extra.
And then, like, I feel like we may have discussed it before, but I want to know, like, you know, obviously doing the work experience at One Extra and connecting the dots over there in your early days coming across, you know, from Glasgow. And then I believe you ended up working with, you know, Tim Westwood at one stage, right?
Yeah, well, after I'd done like my 2 months stint in the work experience, I had to go back to Glasgow because the funding ran out. So it wasn't like till 2011 when I returned. I kept thinking, I don't know why, I just kept thinking, Tim Westwood recently had this drive time show at that point. And I kept thinking about
4 to 7.
And I was all about I was more about manifestation then. I was able just to kind of conjure it up in my mind. So I kept thinking, I kept visualizing myself. I'm going to be on Tim Westwood's drive time show. We're going to be having banter. He's going to have the Scottish Asian guy on his, hot 6x6 feature. And then within like the first few weeks, I was told, oh, you'll be working across Tim Westwood's show. And then I thought, we need to befriend this guy, but not in a way intention, but just because I thought we'd get on, and we did, and I worked on his show for like a year and a half.
So what was that like for you as an experience when you was getting your feet wet, on the show for 1 year, soaking it in, taking in all the guests, the knowledge?
It was wild. It was like, you got to remember that I'd only worked in call centres in Glasgow, so when I had the opportunity getting in at one extra, then I ended up working with Tim Westwood. I thought this is crazy. I thought to myself, actually, if you do go for something, you can get it. And it was, I was in there every day, and I don't know what's going to happen, what guest is going to roll through, what's Tim going to say, what kind of callers are going to have, and mishaps. There was everything. It was almost like being at college, but being at college with a lecturer who was Tim Westwood. And granted, a lot of people might be like, had different views about Tim Westwood, but for me, he was as close to as anything that we've had as an American broadcaster with his British sense of humour, and almost like that line of like being someone that's a bit Alan Partridgey. So people would be like, oh, he's a white guy trying to act black. And I'd be like, look, put all that aside, whatever you think. As a broadcaster, as a guy who brought hip hop to the UK, this is the guy. And everything else, yes, people, might have certain opinions on him, but for me at that point, I was like, this is the dream,
I remember, I feel like at that point he was proper. I remember he started broadcasting in that drive time kind of energy. I remember it was more. He was getting with the comedic kind of one-liners. One-liner time. He was trying to. He loved the cussing match at that period.
He used to. Can I swear on this? Or, I won't swear in, but I mean, he would rip the piss out of me, because he knew that I wanted to be on air, and he thought, well, I can get this Scottish Asian guy, and he used to have me like next to like Paul Chowdhury and GME when they were on the show, and these regulars or whatnot. But it was you would meet, like, I met Big Sean, I met Tyga, Questlove, Royster 5'9", and there was days when I'd be off work because I'd be off the rota, and then he would have interviewed like Nas and Snoop Dogg, and it was a very different time because podcasts and the streaming world, as we all know, weren't as prominent then. So the whole game of like radio, people would come on his show because it was Tim Westwood. He had like Steve Carell, Robbie Savage, like such a wide span of guests. No one can really test and say that they could get that, such a wide span of guests. So for me, it was just being at the college, but your lecturer was an absolute nut job in a good way, and you would meet like the biggest stars of hip hop. It was a win-win.
Wow, it was a win-win, right? That's the great energy, Just got in the building 1 year and a bit, just doing work with the one of the biggest DJs at the time period. I know he was massive, and having such a drive time slot, it's a prime pass-through show where people can just pass throughout the
yeah,
as
that's
well, right?
it.
A lot of unannounced guests just passing through, just flew in the city that it's about.
It was very much like, sorry to interrupt you, it was very much like a revolving door.
Yeah.
You'd have like guests of like American reality TV shows, and also as well as that, you'd have Scott Mills's show, which was in like the old building, and then you'd see like Britney Spears or Usher or Selena Gomez and Nicole Scherzinger. So for me, taking all that in, I was just like, I'm in the right place. I'm getting to see all these people. Granted, I couldn't really converse with them because you're there as a member of staff, whatever. But I used to get like photos and whatnot, just because it was I'd never experienced it, and being from Glasgow, it was amazing.
And you see, like, before we kind of move on, early period of getting into the production side of the business, you mentioned, a couple of times being Scottish Asian. Like, I want to get into that topic. Like, what's that upbringing been like for you? In
Yeah,
Scotland?
I was thinking about this earlier today because obviously, I'm pretty much back in Glasgow now, but growing up in like Glasgow was had its pros and cons.
Yeah.
Like in the 90s, suffered with not directly, but a lot of indirect racial abuse. If you could, yeah, you would say. So yeah, it was weird. I think when I moved to London, what I felt so safe in a way, because you get everyone in this city.
Multicultural. Yeah.
Like it's the melting pot, and anyone, any caste, creed, and yes, Glasgow has its multicultural element of it. But I think growing up was, I used to go to Ibrox Primary,
Yeah.
which was across from
Rangers
Football Stadium.
Not Rangers.
So Rangers Football Stadium. Then I moved to another school. So school for me was an escape. It was a real good escape, because back at home, basically, we were suffering a lot of like racial abuse, and in this particular street where we lived on the last row, the last house on the row of these houses. People would throw stones and snowballs, and you'd get some stuff in the street, and it felt like a bit of a. I felt very much like an outsider.
So then, taking that and then coming to London, and you're feeling a bit more at home.
Yeah.
But then on the flip side, did you feel like, I don't know, being Scottish Asian, kind of like in the black music culture, did you feel maybe people may look at you as kind of like a token as well? Or
no,
I feel comfortable?
I think people have only ever warmed to me.
I love that.
I think especially within the black music culture, when I've done interviews, people, I don't know what it is, people would just open up to me. More than 90% of people that I spoke to would instantly open up. Or if I'm on red carpets, I could use the Scottish thing. So I think look, everyone's went through trauma. Everyone's, whether it's been, some sort of racial abuse or misogyny or anything, whatever it may be. But, we come out of that. And it's not like I hold any hard feelings towards Glasgow. It was just because any city can be, can hold like racists or whatever. But London, I think I found a new sense of identity without sounding too cliche there.
Yeah, man. Big respect, bro. And obviously, you've been doing your thing, producing. So when you're in production doing your thing, you're in the realms of the arena. You're watching some of the godly radio presenters doing their business. Did you get to present in Bug? Did you have to present in Bug someday?
I actually came to London to be a presenter.
Okay.
That was why I came to London.
So you had it in your mind that you want to be a presenter from day dot?
Not from day. What was it like? I'll take you back not too far, but I think when I was in like maybe about 2 or 3 years before I'd moved to London, so like 2008, started presenting at a local station in Glasgow, Awaz FM. I hadn't done anything on camera because camera stuff wasn't really
popping.
So it was like radio, if anything, and then maybe people started.
Was it a pirate or was that illegal?
No, it was a community station. Awaz FM, great.
FM.
They're still going in the south side of Glasgow. Great people. Kind of had no training, just kind of learned my bread and butter on the go. Still didn't know much about like links and getting in and out of songs and whatnot, but I hosted it with my cousin and my guys up in Glasgow, G-Town Daisy. That's the collective that I'm part of. So that's all family up there. But then I got the bug more, and then I'd done a few interviews in Glasgow with some people, but it was only really by chance if I'd managed to get people artists when they come up to Glasgow. I interviewed at D12 but hadn't really had much experience until I came.
Was Proof there at the time?
No, Proof. RIP Proof. He never made it. But the rest of them were there. But I'd done a few radio interviews with people abroad and whatnot, but I never really had much experience doing anything. So it was all pretty much coming to London was on a bit of a whim. I came with like £1,000
I love those stories there. You know?
Yeah.
I feel like I always
had
wanted
no
to
job
be that
either.
person.
I had no
I
job.
feel like I always wanted to be that person, you know, that's like come from somewhere.
Yeah.
And then like, yo, I've got my last grand or 500
Yeah.
quid. I'm gonna make it in this city, and that's it.
I was
Yeah,
very naive, and also I told myself, I thought I'm going to save all this money, but I was still going out in Glasgow partying and whatnot before I came to London. Then my friend was like, look, you know, you need to make the jump, and she's like, I'm going to come down. And then I went, and you know, I'd got a job, obviously in a call center, because that was my experience. And then within 6 weeks, I was working at BBC.
Wow. So you had the presenting bug. You know, you're around all these big heavyweight presenters. Obviously, you're seeing more than Westwood in the building. You're seeing other presenters and stuff like that. So what was kind of like, you know, the next steps for you? What kind of presenting stuff were you doing at the time? You know, aside from production at the time, around that time. What year was this again?
So I moved in 2011, right?
Yeah,
so
yeah.
the timeline, but what I'd found was I was very comfortable in the building.
Yeah, you was comfy. Yeah.
I was comfy. You know,
tea was strong. Coffee game was strong.
Coffee.
Tea and
I was out getting coffees. I was, you know, that's how.
Hold on. Yeah. So all of you up and coming producers, yeah, if you're trying to get into a big building like a Capital or BBC Radio, you better make a good tea and coffee.
Yeah.
No,
Tim Westwood would send me to Leon, which, if anyone knows about Leon, as far as I know, it's predominantly a London-based.
Leon.
Leon is, you know what? But since he was sending me to get those coffees back in the day, I've been going to Leon still to this day. So from 2011, so what is that? 11 years. I've been putting my money in Leon. So Leon, see when I hit big, you better come with the freeness, because sponsorship. But yeah, I mean, that whole type of coffee thing's been moved out from the BBC, because obviously there's more kind of focus on, you know, people getting treated, you know, with a certain level of respect. And no one's, I don't know, I think in TV though, I hear
interesting.
I hear I hear that TV's, you know, people obviously still do that, but look, it's probably the same in fashion. I just thought to myself, you know, dip your toes in the water and get yourself wet a little bit. And you know, if it was getting coffees or whatnot and being a water boy, you have to start somewhere, you know. Yeah,
for real. So like, what would you say was your first kind of decent presenting gig, like as a presenter?
How did it? Because sorry, back to my point. I wasn't really doing anything for a few years. Actually, I went in 2013. I went to Malia, and I DJ'd for a summer, because I always wanted to DJ abroad. And I know your previous guest, Nick Bright, he'd done that, like he done it like years ago, when Malia was really popping. But I went there, and it was still wild, and I'd done 4 months. So that was my kind of stint.
4 months in Malia.
It was. I didn't even really drink, and it was wild. It was a lot to take in. Wow. Probably not the best thing to do for mental health, for someone that suffers with like anxiety and stuff. But it was an experience. And then I think I came back, and then I was kind of in and out of things. I wasn't really at the BBC as much then. I hadn't even started voiceovers. So I think between like when I came back from Mali at end of 2013 to 2015, I was working at some radio stations. There was a station called Radio King Online.
Oh yeah,
Radio King Online. Yeah,
I feel like, is that where we met initially?
I think so. I think maybe. I think there was some crossover there.
Yeah, there was a crossover.
Yeah. So I done some shows. Great people there. Set up a bit of a specialist show there. I think I was like maybe doing like 1 or 2 wee bits at West Side, but not tons. So
you became quite I would say a flagship presenter at Radio King at the time.
Yeah, because I was doing like a bit of a Mr. Jam show there, where it was like all SoundCloud music. So I think if I continued with that up till now, I would have been like a specialist, you know, DJ in the clubs. But that wasn't the path I wanted to go down. But in that point, it was in Brixton. It was, you know, small studio, but they were so good. They were so good to me. They're like the people there. So Kuda, big up Kuda, and Manny. And if I'm forgetting anyone,
Will.
Yeah, that's right, Mills. Yeah, exactly. So yeah, got some radio experience, and I think it was only till 2017. It was 2017. Got to big up my guy Joe from Media Spotlight UK, who's running the channel Hard on YouTube. Go check that for red carpet stuff and sports stuff. But that was the first proper stint at doing. Was it actually? Well, without going into it too much, when I was doing Radio King Online, I managed to get myself in with the radio pluggers, and I started doing, I started interviewing like quite big artists actually. It's like Kaiser, Naughty Boy, Gorgon City. So that was all through Radio King Online, and then 2017 was Media Spotlight UK, and then I think the journey really began from 2017. Really.
Listen and watch
Voices with Blake.
on Dan Blake TV on YouTube.
Voices with Blake.
Listen and watch
Voices with Blake.
on Dan Blake TV on YouTube.
You see, like, so you're presenting all these different platforms, interviews and stuff like that. When it comes to the whole presenting thing, do you feel, there's so many different approaches to the style, of presenting and stuff like that. So what do you feel like what kind of style did you model yourself on, kind of growing up? Just to check obviously it was Westwood. Was there any other people that kind of inspired your style along the way?
It was very much like Westwood. It was Alan Partridge.
Okay.
It was like not David Brent-esque, but like using a lot of quite quick fire humor.
Yeah.
And that also is from I'm not saying like I'm a funny guy, but what I mean is like being from Glasgow or Liverpool or any of these cities where it seems to have like 2 football clubs and there's like a working class history, and there's people that work by the docks of the Clyde side. There is very much like no offense to Londoners, right? But I'll say you guys are okay, but a lot of jokes go over Londoners' heads. So like people in the north, like I think just from that, so I infiltrated a bit of style from being Glaswegian, very quick, very boom boom boom, and then also like taking a bit of Westwood. I think I was always like, there's this guy called Simon Amstill, and he used to do T4. I think I used to be quite inspired by him. I'm always inspired by people that are a bit off the cuff, a bit weird, but you also look at them and you think you're very smart. And I'm not saying I'm smart, but what I think, if you're able to think on your feet, I think it can go a long way. So that was my style. So it wasn't really something that. Yeah, it was very, very much like just a bit
off the cuff,
comedian, journalist, not really journalistic, but listening a lot intently. And then maybe picking up on something and trying to make a moment of it. But red carpets is where I thrive most because it's high pressure. And I always think to myself, what am I going to say? And it's not till the actual person comes up on the red carpet. Boom. So, yeah. So,
I love that. I love that. Yeah. Do you know what I was thinking of? Like, I feel like, he was dope at like the off the cuff kind of energy. And he's at radio. Oh, I got his name, Matt Edmondson.
Oh, yeah. See, Matt Edmondson's a guy I'm inspired by as well. So
honourable shout out. Yeah, Matt Edmonds, and see I thought that energy is in you a bit. Yeah. So I'm glad that you. It's
Matt Edmondson, Simon Amstill, Tim Westwood, and it's like in terms of like speaking about music knowledge, like Mr. Jam, Semtex, Manny Naughty, and things like that. But that was when I was doing more of the music stuff. But that's where I'm kind of inspired by.
And is it ever tight? You see when you kind of off the cuff and you're firing back, you're waiting for something to respond to. You're quick with the mic, quick with the exchanges. Has there ever been a moment where a guest has come and you just had a brain freeze?
Thankfully, never. And I don't know how, because there's, especially when I used to drink alcohol, there was days when I'd turn up and I'd be like, I'm not feeling good, and it was a mixture of anxiety, just a mixture of being hungover, and I still managed to deliver something, but now that I don't really drink at all, I'm on much better form. And I used to go to press days, and I used to be quite like nervous, but I would just carry it through. But generally, I've always been fine. I've always managed to be, because either I've over prepared. I'm not saying like if I went to do a film junket, which I don't really do, but if I did, I would over prepare because film's not necessarily my forte. Or even but now if I was doing music, I'm a bit more comfortable. So I've never. The only person that's ever blanked me, but it was actually really funny, was Vin Diesel, and that was my big. That was in the year of 2017. Or was it? No, start of 2018. And it was the Triple X2, I think it was, premiere, and it was the first big premiere I'd ever done. I could see him on his Facebook Live because that was when streaming live streams were really taking off, and he was coming closer to us. And I was bundled in with like about 7 or 8 journalists, and we basically had one shot to get questioning, and he was going past. And I thought, this is it. And I thought, what am I going to ask him? I mean, I don't really watch Triple X movies. I've not really watched much Vin Diesel stuff. And I just said, I looked on Wikipedia and goes, who would win out of a fight between you, The Rock, and Jason Statham? because at the time there was a bit of beef between Dwayne.
I remember
yeah,
a little beef. Yeah.
and it actually, I noticed his Facebook Live, and Mark Zuckerberg was watching as well, and I went big up Scotland. And I said something else. I don't know. I watched it back, and I was on his feed. And then after I asked him that question, he like kind of pulled a funny face.
Yeah,
and he walked away. And I goes, "Don't leave me hanging." Yeah. And that was the kind of first moment I had where I was able to kind of make a joke out of something, make a bit of it was a viral moment.
Viral moment. Yeah.
So luckily no one's ever blanked. Well, he was the only person that's blanked me, but it was part of the
band,
part of the sketch. You could say.
And I've not, as I said, and as you've developed your presenting, I've noticed, the comedic style's been coming on more stronger.
Yeah.
You took to the generational shift where social media's come into play.
Yeah.
Congratulations on your 10,000.
Oh, thank you.
Followers.
On TikTok, yeah.
Congratulations.
By the way, Gully talks on TikTok. We'll talk about that anyway.
Yeah. So it's like, I've seen the transition with your presenting style, and you're what's the word? You're manifesting what you want, really.
Yeah.
And I feel like social media's helping that. And you got people like Munya Chihuahua.
This is I was about to shout out
as well.
I was about to shout out Munya, shout out Mo Gilligan. I've got a couple other people like Paul Black, who's like a Scottish comedian. Anyone that was doing, I mean, I was actually not, but I was able to kind of channel a bit more of my comedy stuff over when we went into the first lockdown, because I saw like people doing it, and then I attempted a nightclub sketch, which was a post-match interview style, where I had left the nightclub and I was given an interview like a football manager, and it done numbers. And then I think that was the first point I was like, I've watched so many football interviews and I've always liked it. And anyway, I carried on a bit more with the sketch stuff, but I've not really followed that up. But then obviously now what I'm doing is pretty much like sports, football stuff.
Yeah. So how have you found like that journey into the whole social media world, and with the consistency with the content? Because I know it's quite, once you start getting popping, it's like you got to keep the ball rolling constantly. It's like a train that keeps going. So if it's off, then it's like, all right, on to the next one.
This is it. I think that I'm quite a self-conscious person, like, even though the camera's on right now. Quite self-conscious about how I'm appearing.
Okay.
So I think when I started making all that stuff, I was like, some stuff would hit, some stuff wouldn't, and some stuff was really good. Some stuff was better than the stuff that did hit. So I think I'd made the sketch stuff, and then I was just getting really inconsistent with it, and I wasn't having really a good time in London, and I wasn't having a good home situation in London. So I think it was really draining a lot of energy, and I had some health stuff going on. But I think when I moved back to Glasgow, I thought to myself, I'm going to take all these skills that I've learned, and I'm going to start. I think I just thought to myself, I want to start at Glasgow Rangers. I want to see what I can conjure up. And then from there, I found I watched so many videos on TikTok on how to do TikTok, how to get numbers and algorithms and whatnot. So I started it, and I predominantly started my TikTok as like me doing voiceovers at Channel 4. And I thought, like, because some people had already covered that. There's a girl, I think her name's Jordan, big up. I think that's her name, but she does all the ITV2 stuff. Yeah. So I thought I'll cash in and maybe being the Channel 4 guy, but numbers were low. And then I was very inconsistent with TikTok, and then the Euros happened. Forgive me if I'm going too far ahead. No, cool. So yeah, obviously the rearranged Euros happened, and I decided to take a punt, and I thought, right, I'm going to go to Leicester Square, and Scotland are playing England, and I know the Scotland fans know how to party, but I didn't really know what kind of crowd. Would it be young? Would it be old or whatever? So I took my mate along with me, took my mic. I bought this microphone in Spain 4 or 5 years ago for a festival. Yeah. Didn't know how to actually get any interviews at a festival, so hadn't used the microphone since then. So then I took the microphone, told my mate just to film me and do it vertical. And we went there, interviewing tons of people, came across this guy called Abdul. Vice have covered like a little mini documentary. He's quite controversial. It's like a Pakistani guy that is, sings a lot of controversial songs, sectarian songs. He's a Rangers fan as well. Not sure actually where his head is at, like if he's, suffers from some condition or disability. Anyway, I interviewed him, strictly neutral, because he's a Rangers fan. I'm a Rangers fan, but I interviewed him. I knew he had a bit of notoriety about him, but never really knew how much. Posted that video, and it just went wild.
Wow.
And then from there, I started from there, that was when the journey consistency began. I learned how to use the green screen, learned how to make short form content, how to make a start, middle, and end. And by the way, I've only just hit 10,000 followers, so I'm not saying that I'm some 100,000 marketing genius, but
10,000 is a solid number, though. You know.
Yeah, it gets you in a certain field. But
you end up getting, I don't know, like YouTube. I swear, when you get 10,000 subscribers, you get the fancy. You get to go hit the studios and that. Is there a TikTok studio?
TikTok give you a creator fund, and you can also link up with brands.
Okay.
So they give you certain access. But anyway, yes. So since then, I've just learned how to use the tools. I've stopped watching the videos because all I took from the videos was what I would say as well. Again, I know people are on 50, 100, 200,000. They're killing it. I'm very much at the start of it, but TikTok is the platform that I've had the most success in.
Oh wow!
Because I've stuck to one niche, Scottish football. I only recently had a viral video like 2 days ago.
Oh wow!
And that pushed me over into 10,000. But I think once you get a viral video moment, you just have to keep, that's when you have to blast it, because you don't know when you're going to get another one. And also what I've learned is, and this is part of news as well, especially when the lockdown happened and we're all stuck in this pandemic, you find a topic that is divisive. And I don't mean it, it's how people sell news stories. Yeah. Kim Kardashian, Kanye West, Russia, Ukraine, BLM, whatever it may be, there's people on both sides of the fence. Yeah. And I feel like that's what I've tried to kind of investigate a little bit, but I've also tried to stay neutral as well, because I can go into, if we had more time, I'd tell you about how complicated Glasgow is with religion. So that's not for me to even step into, but that's another discussion in itself.
So stepping into the whole Rangers football energy. Yeah, you had a chance to get with the team, see what's happening with the squad. Link up with the Rangers footballers.
Well, listen. This I don't want to say too much, but obviously I've got aspirations, and I'm literally taking all that experience I've got from being in London for 10 years, and now I'm using my contacts from down south, and I'm merging it up with there and whatnot. So trying to work it as a bit of a strategy. I don't want to say too much on it right now, because I've not made contact with anyone directly, but naturally, I know someone down here that works for Arsenal. I know a girl that works for Tottenham. Yeah, of course, it'd be the dream. It'd be the dream.
It only makes sense that you're involved in Rangers, at the highest level.
Yeah, so
presenting stuff with them and this kind of thing.
Yeah, I could do it. I've shown that I can make the type of I've got ideas for content and whatnot. But listen, we'll see. There's opportunities there to work for many people, and I'm sure if I speak to the right people, I'll make it happen. But just a case of continuing with what I'm doing right now. But certainly there's goals, there's aspirations. I'd like to be going to a big tournament. I don't know where we're at come December, but if Qatar was there, I'd happily go to do the World Cup.
Are you finding the balance between, obviously production you started in, presenting, that's just two of your hats, and switching it up, getting into more content, which requires a lot of energy as well, you know what I mean? And your personality, how you mentioned before having anxiety about things, and that's relating to mental health and stuff. How are you finding balance in life and advice to people that's trying to balance all of these kind of careers?
Yeah, it's listen, it doesn't necessarily just align to people in the creative industries, but anyone can suffer for mental health. But I think with mental health issues, but I think with the creative industries, it's just you're juggling balls, man. You're just juggling balls constantly and spinning plates, and you're at
it's a risky business. There's a lot of rejection as well.
It's a risky business. I've just felt the most confident I've felt in my whole career, but I've stepped away from doing a lot of DJing. I stepped away from the music stuff as well. I wasn't really enjoying the music interviews that I was doing. So I think now what it is, if I'm harbouring and I'm gonna throw my efforts towards one thing, I think mental health calms down a little bit, because at one point I was just like, oh, I need to do this, I need to go to a red carpet, I need to do this interview, and actually you're spreading yourself so thinly that you can't. Is it impossible to win?
Yeah,
I think.
Yeah, when you got like your foot in every.
I'm
true, I hear you.
Yeah, I think it's like what one person said to me, and I suppose I'm tooting my horn a little bit, but he just said, look, he goes, if you are one of these types of people that is good at so many different types of things, it's great in a sense, but it's also, you have to then just put your chips into one corner and play a hand, you know. So this is
master of none, innit?
Yeah. You're a jack of all trades, master of none.
Yeah, this is it. Like that can tend to happen if you're not careful. You know what I mean?
This is what I've learned from London, and because people kept asking me when I was going for. I've done pilots for like radio stations, national radio stations, and whatnot, and people would ask me, "What's your niche? What do you do?
Yeah.
What's special about you?" And I thought to myself,
especially radio. There was so what makes you think you can replace that person?
Yeah, and there's always be
question.
these big damning questions, and I'd be like, right, understand that. You know, they have to ask because ultimately they're a brand and they need to co-align with people that are also brands.
Yeah.
And it's only when I moved back to Glasgow all hit home. And also I've had a bit of mentoring recently from someone who's really big. I'll mention him another time, but he's really helped me to understand the fact that I don't care if it's fishing, if it's collecting women's fishnet stockings. I don't care what it is. If you have an interest and you can talk about it, you will do something. I don't care what you can be working in a farm in Estonia, milking cows, or working in a crop field. I don't know, in India or whatever. But if you can talk about something consistently, you will garner interest.
And you know how to, people can really tell that you understand what you're talking about.
Yeah, and listen, I'm not going to sit here and say that I know everything. I know the ins and outs of Scottish football. I don't. But can you tell me that anyone on TV right now who covers boxing or Saturday Night TV knows about their industry? They don't, but it's been able to address the audience to an extent that you do. And again, I want to build my knowledge more, because when I was living in London, I was just absorbed with the Premier League. But actually, I'll be honest, the Scottish League is more exciting than the Premier League, because you know, Man City and Liverpool, fine, that's a bit of a two-horse race, and Liverpool are coming back into it. I see a Liverpool top there. But the Premier League is great, but what it is, I feel it's been, you know, it's by money. It's like we're looking at a very American product, and you know, I cannot hear Man U in the top four discussion anymore. Paul Pogba, Cristiano Ronaldo, it's great, but anyway, what I was getting at was, I need to get the knowledge up for sure. But the audience is staying loyal to me, and I've got to big up everyone who follows the TikTok page.
Gully Talks on TikTok.
Yeah, Gully Talks on TikTok, because they are loyal and they'll invest in the comments. And that
must feel special. Sorry to cut you. That must feel special when people are in the comments actually actively getting involved in the conversation.
Yeah,
well, that's when it gets to the next level, man. When people engagements there as well.
Yeah, I think again, it's all the stuff that me and you have learned. And I think as a consumer of social media, or a person that works with companies that deliver social media, I see big brands that have so much money that don't know how to ask the right question. And I'm not saying I do all the time, but there is, I think, start, middle, and end. I think I've kind of figured,
middle, and end.
I've figured out how to pose that. You got to hook someone in, you got to keep them watching, and then you got to pose the question or the finale. Yeah. What is it that I want out of you? And
interesting.
Yeah.
Gem talk, people. Gem talk.
And listen, this information's all out there. This is not something that I've just carved out of thin air. This is all stuff that people, you know, I've watched people's stuff, and I'm like, well,
it's still gem talk. It's coming from your perspective.
Yeah.
So I hear you, because it's like that 3-pointer win. You know what I mean? And shout out to so many. I feel you. I've even in my career, I've had advice from certain legends in the game, and they've said, you know, there's sometimes, even when you're doing an interview, breaking it down into, you know, 3 crucial points that can bring it home real quickly for someone who's got 10 minutes to watch an interview.
Exactly.
You don't have to overthink it.
No, you don't have to
Just
overthink
find
it.
3 things that you can go in that can start, middle, and close it. You know what I mean?
I think it's amazing we're able to have a conversation like this online, but also I think that we can take little nuggets from this and post it on our platforms. Short form content, I think, is amazing, but also it alludes to the the fact that people have short attention spans.
Yeah.
So now it's like trying to create the story, but trying to create it in such a small dose that you want people to ask for more. People wanting more, so it's you're kind of you're diluting the story a little bit, but also you're still giving people a snapshot. Like the video that went viral on my TikTok recently. I just went up to a West Ham fan. I thought he was an Aston Villa fan because I was there to ask Aston Villa fans what they thought about Steven Gerrard. And he obviously Aston Villa and West Ham share the same colours. He's an older gentleman, must be in his early 60s. And I went up to him and I just started asking him, well, Steven Gerrard, and he starts talking. And then I was like, oh, sorry, sir, I just realised that you're a Villa fan, West Ham fan. He goes, no, I'm perfectly happy to talk. And then I was like, oh, well, since we're talking, Rangers West Ham Europa League final, and then he talked about that, and then I says, but he says Rangers are my favourite Scottish team, and I says, why are Rangers your favourite Scottish team as opposed to Celtic? Because obviously predominantly I speak about Rangers and Celtic, and then he said that he something about the Scottish counterparts, he has respect, and it's a good friendship, but he also said that he is a good English boy, he's a good British boy, and he was talking about Rangers links with the nationalism, the Queen, the Union Jack, Britain, and Celtic, who have more alliances towards Republic of Ireland. Yeah. And that video went mental. It's just people keep sending it to me.
Wow.
I put it out on Saturday.
Yeah. That's when you know.
So
it's big,
sometimes it's just luck.
Luck of the draw.
Because for me, also, I'm a Rangers fan, but also I want to speak to Celtic fans. I want to speak to Aberdeen fans, Hearts fans, but I know I don't want to get involved in that religious aspect of it,
politics of it,
or the nationalism, or because it's it's the world that I am not versed to speak in, and I'd rather avoid it. But I posted it because I knew it would garner interest, and it's 150,000 on TikTok, and so anyway, I'm kind of rambling, but
salute you, bro. Salute you all day.
Sometimes you just stumble on content and you have to make the most of it, and you have to find a moment in that.
Magic moment right there. So, I feel like you're a triple threat. So when we go into your whole voiceover career, this is a thing that you become a master of the trade at, extraordinaire on the TV, big Channel 4, been doing so many bits before. Like, tell us how you got into the whole voiceover industry for people that's, wanting to know about that side of the game and Gully's expertise and skills. The voiceover is also master of, the VO, the voice, very powerful thing that can be used to market so many things and companies and global brands all around the world just from using your vocal cords.
Well, first I got to big up yourself, Dan, because you're a master of that craft, and I've heard you on my TV doing music ads and obviously BBC One and whatnot. So we are, we kind of share that admiration for the trade. But yeah, it was just a case of when it was my ex that got me into it. But big up my ex. It was. She was just like, listen, you've got a great voice, you need to start utilising it. And this was that period where I was only in production. I was making very minimal money. I was producing radio shows, wasn't really the presenting obviously was doing for free. 2015, start of 2015 it was, and she said, there's a workshop, there's a charity, I can't remember the name, I need to figure who they are, because they sent me on my way. And they had a workshop on voiceovers, and they were talking about all the different areas in voiceovers and what areas you can kind of navigate. And and I went along to this workshop. I think I sent an application. You had to write a little paragraph on why you want to come to the workshop. Got on the workshop, heard about continuity, and then started Googling it. Continuity, for anyone that doesn't know, is what me and Dan do. We talk on the TV. We introduce programs. Dan introduces EastEnders. I introduce Gogglebox. So drama on both ends.
Trust me.
And then so I started kind of looking into it, and I think I just
before to pause you there. So you see when you was like a youth, when you was a kid, like, do you think like how I felt? Because it was like when I used to watch the TV, I used to think, no way are their voices in between programs speaking. Like, who are these people? How do they get in there? How do they get in the box? I can't see them. Where are they? I used to think voiceover was the weirdest world, because like I used to think their voices in the TV. I used to think they're like some different superheroes, you know.
Yeah,
weird-
I think voiceover artists of any kind are superheroes because I don't care if it's like someone doing a voiceover for radio, for TV, for Spotify, or doing a voiceover on an airplane, or basically anything. Because I began in audio and that's my first love. So anything transmitting through the airwaves is beautiful. But I just got to say that it was only till I moved to London where people told me I had a good voice.
Yeah, okay.
And that doesn't necessarily mean you're going to be any good. But in Glasgow, I was just another Glaswegian. It was, you know what, when I was working in the call centres, that was, even though I didn't enjoy the jobs, that anyone will tell you, Glasgow is the hub of call centres. You've definitely worked in a call centre in Glasgow. But it was when I spoke to the English customers. I used to work for John Lewis, excuse me, and the English customers were like, "Oh, you got such a beautiful voice," and I was like, "Oh yeah, I want to come and live in London." Then when I came to London, people were just all over it.
Listen and watch
Voices with Blake.
on Dan Blake TV on YouTube.
Voices with Blake.
Listen and watch
Voices with Blake.
on Dan Blake TV on YouTube.
People were like, "How you got this voice?" But yeah, I always used to think to myself, you know, these people speaking in between TV shows, like, what is it? How do you? And I read about this guy who did Sky, and this was the article that kept coming up on Google, and I just thought, I just didn't know anything about it. And then after I'd been to that charity workshop, I was on my because it was you, Dan. You were the one who put me on my way.
Oh.
It's all down to you.
I think I remember now.
Yeah, because
email,
you gave me a name for someone called Kelsey.
Yeah, big shouts to Kelsey.
Big up Kelsey. If you know who you are. And I bizarrely had her on my Facebook. I don't know how. My thought, I've met her on a night out. We've got chatting. We're Scottish. We've added each other on social media.
Let's pull this. I'm memorizing, lapping back to the story. So before you carry on there, I remember because Channel 4. Big shout to you, lot, man. Salute always, because that was my actual initial continuity, early entrance.
Yeah.
Big shout to Gabrielle Power also. You know, big shout to you, Gabrielle. Yeah. You know who you
and
are.
She's Munya's other half.
Munya's other half.
Yeah.
So,
and very talented woman. Very
talented. So much love for her because she was going hard for me early doors when she was at Channel 4.
Yeah.
Got me in with work experience. First time in Channel 4. Gas these times. That was one of my people. That voiceover continuity was one of my dream life goals. I was doing radio, but that was a goal in life to get on the TV. But I said to me, they were superheroes. Like you were saying superheroes. So when she got me that work experience, I done that. Done a little. Went to where did we go? We went Southend-on-Sea workshops.
Oh wow!
Done these little voiceover competitions.
Yeah.
They were very successful. Got a chance to go and do my first voiceover, which was Bob's Burgers.
Is that ITV2?
E4.
E4, right.
My first announcement, rip a couple lines of Kelsey, shout out to Kelsey, and then after that, work experience, done my thing, got that under the belt.
Yeah.
Didn't really do anything after that, like with Channel 4, but it got my feet wet. And then I remember keeping in touch with Kelsey, and I remember the accents at that time, they were looking for certain sounds. And I just knew it. I knew. These times we knew each other. Yeah. And then we were developing a friendship. And I was like, Gully would be the ultimate fit for Channel 4. I was hearing you before you was on there. Right. I was just visualizing. Yeah. And I thought, it'll be a crime if I don't connect this guy. Yeah. So I think we were.
That's right. You're Dan. You're the plug.
Yeah. Then I gave you an email. Yeah. Bang. I don't know.
You
go from there.
No, but you gave me the name.
Yeah. The name. I said, yeah.
Which was the lead. Which was, but that was even more powerful because I had her on Facebook, and I still don't know how I had her on Facebook, and then sent her that. After that charity workshop, I made that demo, and then I sent it to her. She liked it, and then she was like, "Oh,
what year was this again?
2015."
Yeah.
And then she was like, "Do you want to come in and do, run some scripts past you, and you can just sit in the booth and record?" And I was a bit nervous because the only other job in London I did was maybe I did a couple of DJ gigs, but it was predominantly radio production, and we'd done like 2-3 hours in the studio, and then they says they'd be happy to take me on as a freelancer, and I was just like, wow.
So that was the big entry into big.
And that's all you. That's you and Kelsey, man. Bloody hell.
Blessings, King. lessons, and I'm so proud of you. Since then, you went on to introduce some amazing programs. Can you list? This is a question I would love to get asked one day. Maybe we can ask each other now. That'd be quite fun. Can you list some of your? I don't know. Would it be? I don't know. As TV now, what has been like? All right, let me just ask this question. What would you say? Some of the give me like I don't know 5 moments that you enjoyed like on TV as a continuity announcer. To note so far.
Okay, I introduced the finale to the Formula One season.
Woo!
Where Lewis Hamilton was screwed out of the championship. Well, that's another discussion. But I introduced that race for Channel 4 when they had rights alongside Sky. I introduced the last ever episode of Peep Show. And you know, like those for people that I don't know why people, but you know, there's like those websites where you can like download TV shows and one of those dodgy sites, but my voiceover is still on that original episode. So my mate downloaded it from some dodgy site and was like, I heard you interviewing and introducing the end credits on Peep Show. Also, I've always been a big fan of Father Ted.
Legendary.
So when it came to like Christmas, when I first started, I got to introduce like Father Ted. What else? Like, obviously, I got a little stint in a Mo Gilligan show.
Oh, one with Big Nasty.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, I heard you.
Yeah.
I used to watch that.
So it was a little sketch that they introduced a continuity announcer. And yeah, I don't know what else really, to be honest. There's about a couple of moments in there.
Interesting. Do you feel have you introduced news before?
Channel 4 News, yeah.
Interesting. How does it obviously announcing kind of other kind of TV shows, it's quite a different tone when you're doing news, right? It's like a different energy, isn't it? It's like no, it's like you shift to like you slightly feel like a news presenter yourself.
Yeah,
the announcement.
I keep the tone strictly, basically. Just
business,
don't mess about. And that's the thing with these jobs. You're in a booth and you've got a program director next to you,
exactly,
and they will maybe tell you perhaps what the top story will be if it's Ukraine or something. But naturally, I'll always go into news very, very gentle. And obviously, if there's been a big. Luckily, I've not been on rota when there's been a big incident. I remember when it was the Manchester bombing, and there's a guy called Pete who works with us who wrote this beautiful poem because he's originally from Manchester, I believe. Yeah, and he wrote it's on YouTube, but he wrote this beautiful poem. It was dedicated to the people of Manchester, and it was before the news. And he's got nerves of steel because he managed to do that, deliver that live. So it's a bit knowing what tone to have in it.
And this is it. So you're at Channel 4, you're in the building, you've introduced some of your favorite programs and some of the biggest programs in the UK, in the world on TV, and you're getting your feet wet, you're doing your thing, you're dabbling. But what people always ask me even is like, is it live?
That's a common question, yeah.
But when it's obviously there's a balance here and there. Some stuff gets pre-recorded, some stuff is live. That's with every channel. But how do you feel when you're live? Because in live, it's like you have to have this moment of zen with yourself to realize that it's only you.
I know.
If it messes up, it's you.
I know.
If you do it well, it's you. So you kind of have to make peace with yourself to
you
get
do,
it right.
You do.
I don't know how to describe it. It's an announcer to announcer. We're having our moment.
Yeah, because let's have it right. When you put that mic up, I don't know how many people you're broadcasting to. Depends what the show is or whatnot. But it's still Channel 4. It's still BBC One. There is a lot of pressure on it. I still get that. So it's more calm now. But if I've got a long link to do and I need to, I'm trying to shorten it down, or like one of the last times I was in, the printer wouldn't work, so I had to do everything off the laptop. So there's little kind of moments, but you have to back yourself. But it's probably like anyone that does TV, like in front of the camera or radio, any sort of live broadcast, you have to just be like, we've got this. Let's take a deep breath, and you practice. And I've got my trusted water bottle, and I always make sure never to have crisps before I link, because there's been a couple of times I've had like peppercorn crisps and it gets stuck at the back of your throat, and can't get your words out. So yeah, you have to make peace for yourself and just always be a bit gentle on yourself and just practice. And the good thing is you get your practice runs, but as it's going live, you know, it's a big deal. And you know, some people think it's an easy job. It's not an easy job at all. There's a lot of lawyers to go through. There's read throughs. There's, you know, making sure, you know, picking it. Compliance is the editorial element of it is like, which is what we've probably learned from BBC's. You've got to, you know, you've got to be aware of what's going on in the news, the audience, and
the language checks you have to say. It's programming. It's all
these exactly. It's all these skills that you learn that you then apply to. You don't think about it actually, how the list of things that you learn, even the certain days when you've been in a job, not saying the continuity, but there's been times when I've been in production when I've just been like, this is not me at all, why am I not presenting? But the flip side of that is you've learned skills that people will still look at and be like, right, this guy knows about editorial. You know, if you're trying to go through anyone in BBC, they will want to know that you know you're editorially sound. Yeah. Unless you're a celebrity, whereas you just get casted for the job. Yeah. But if you're coming in and you're trying to like get in there, you know, via the hustle, then you know, being editorial. Editorially sound is someone that understands the judgment calls and what the audience is and all that type of thing.
Yeah. You know, just doing your knowledge, research, due diligence when you're
exactly
into a role. But yeah, man, you know, the voiceover business, man. And, what kind of other work you've been doing as like in the voiceover game and stuff?
For a nice run of things recently, I had a BBC Three. There was a show called Job Fished, which was presented by Catherine Nye. Big up Catherine. She's a journalist over at BBC News, and the show was a huge hit basically because anyone that's watched Tinder Swindler, there's a common theme of these shows that are being released now where someone is basically duping or swindling someone out of something. So this Job Fished program was about this fake company that was set up online, and they hired all these people during lockdown, and it was crazy. But I got my first ever voiceover acting job. I played one of the accused, and obviously he was Scottish. Some people said to me, "Oh, why are they Scottish always accused of these crimes?" And I was like, "Well, actually, his reputation in the show was quite good." So, and then I'd done a job for Chaiwala. Chaiwala, as we know, is huge down here. They've got a branch in Glasgow. My mate does all the editing for them. So we've done a funny skit, and I have voiced the first ever Scottish ad for them.
Oh, well, congrats,
and then I've done some All 4 promos. All 4 is like when you'll see, if you're watching Channel 4, and it'll be like, they'll show you like a clip of like First Dates, and then at the end of it, it'll be like, you know, First Dates available now on All 4 or whatever it is. What else? I had something else that came about. But yeah, there's been these are like my first, like, even though I've been doing it since 2015, I've not pushed myself as hard as I could. But now I want to get involved in it, and I know it's very competitive, but you got to, and that's helped me in my TikTok journey as well. You know.
Yeah. This is it. Like, you're just using, you know, the experience you have, and I feel like when you're doing continuity as well, you're introducing various kind of topical programs of different styles. So it kind of gets you battle ready for other areas, like, because you're hardened to always using your voice continuously, you know, throughout a month. You know, you're always on air recording scripts, saying words, so you kind of battle harden yourself. So when it comes to like doing promos and stuff like that, it's not so super daunting because you're always working your voice when you're doing continuity, you know.
Yeah, I'll tell you, just in terms of like just not necessarily just because we do this as a job, but the voice, the voice is huge. Like I think anyone, like, obviously, like, you know, it's pressure being in front of a camera and maybe doing live TV or whatever. But in terms of you're using your voice in everyday life, if it's negotiation, calming down a situation. Or you know, if they always say, even if you're dating someone, or you want to date someone, it's not about what you say, it's how you say it. Yeah, it's not about what you say, it's about how you say it. And I think that the more that I've did the jobs with putting a pair of headphones on, you can really hear, like, me and you have got deep voices, right? Big up our voices, because a lot of men would love to have these voices. That's that testosterone, you know.
Barry White Jr.
Yeah, you got that Barry White. I don't know what mine is, but
I'll tell you what, before we go in there, like,
Yeah.
let's still pause on that, yeah. But I remember, shout out to Westwood, I remember 2012, I was on the show, and then I think I was, it was like, so these times I was MCing still, these times when I used to do music, guys. So I was MCing, so he goes, what do you do? And I was like, yeah, I'm Brainlock MC. And he goes, oh, you got some bars? And I think Delisa, shout out to Delisa, she was working on the show at the time, and I worked at Amazon. He was like, oh, West was like, oh, has he got bars? Like, and she was like, yeah. She nodded her head like, yeah, he's cool. So I was like, he heard me speak or whatnot. Then I don't know, out of nowhere, that's how I know his comedic value was on point. Out of nowhere, he had a Barry White sample. He pulled it out and ripped me on air.
That's
like,
so funny, man. That means he likes you,
though.
though.
To the next song.
That means he likes you, though.
But you know what? I always remember that moment because Nick Bright. I talked about it with Nick on the last pod.
Yeah.
Because I forgot. Because this is why you got to do podcasts with your mates and stuff. Because it's like your memories jig back and you think, oh, I actually forgot that he was even there that day in the studio. Because that day was the first time I'd ever done a voiceover.
Wow, okay.
One extra for Dubstep Week.
Yeah.
But I was nervous as hell. I was with Patrick. Shout out to Patrick, sound producer at BBC. But I was starstruck. It's the first time I'd ever been in the building.
Yeah.
I was called to come and do a voiceover. Didn't know what a voiceover was.
Yeah.
Why I was here. Apparently I got a good voice.
Yeah.
I was rapping at the time. So I was trying to get my music played on the radio. So I went in the studio because I was just basically trying to calm my anxiety down.
Yeah.
I didn't know what to do. Patrick, these times he's the big producer already. He's telling me instructions, do this, do that. I'm not coming out with what they've heard, they've heard in my tone. So went on Westwood. But that comedic banter, that got me. Funny enough, I was getting roasted, but it was funny. Like, he was mimicking the Barry White energy. He had some Barry White song come out of nowhere. And I laughed. It was good banter, and then it relaxed me. So
that's it.
Time I was done.
Yeah.
Then Bun B and Eve were guests that day.
Right.
Because for the Gumball 3000 race.
Right. Okay. Yeah. That's right.
And Westwood had to go somewhere. And Nick Bright took over. Now that's when Nick jogged my memory. He was like, he took over the show.
Right.
That day because he was there, but I just forgot. So that was a moment there. So just like with the whole Barry White energy.
There you go. You got to just own what you've got. You know?
So then it kind of made me own it. I was like, yeah, man, I can do this. I was comfortable, and then I smashed it out of the park that day.
Yeah.
So yeah, man, big up the Deep Voice crew.
Exactly, big up the Deep Voice crew. Exactly, and the high pitched lads like David Beckham. You can still win.
Exactly.
Well, David Beckham always wins, but
he's been winning for time. Football club and all that. Yeah, man. Yeah, so the voice career has been flying. What else you got coming up, bro? What else is going on?
So. Listen, again, I'm not going to be like, oh, I've got this guy. I hate to say things before they happen, but yeah, obviously I'm spending most of my time in Glasgow now, so really trying to kind of make moves in sport up there and see what's happening. I think certainly what's happening on the TikTok is really good. I think all that experience I had of interviewing music artists has been great, but I've pretty much took myself out of music, so I'm not really doing it. It's all the focus is basically voiceover and the presenting, and so it's sport and presenting. That's
sport and presenting.
That's the game,
So you're refocusing, aligning those goals, and
it used to be music, and I just thought to myself, actually, like I enjoy doing this music thing, but how different can I be from anyone else? And I realised that I believe that I believe that you can be different in the sporting field. As opposed to the music field, I feel is so saturated. I'm not saying it's bad, but I just think that I don't know. I just like sport. I don't know why. Maybe it's social media probably has taken a turn for the better. All the sports, like in the form of wrestling, everything else has become sports entertainment. Where you've got characters, where you've got characters that have got social media profiles, and they became characters and whatnot. So everything's taken and I'm not saying music doesn't have that, but I just think that sports is unlimited because you got the performance which we can critique. You wouldn't really naturally critique someone on a music performance. You could, you'd be like, oh, you performed that song, it was amazing, but you can get into so much in the sport, whether it's boxing or football, darts, snooker, UFC, whatever it is, and then if the person wants to get on the mic and start giving it Billy Big Balls, then if you're there with the camera, you're like, if you keep talking, mate, I'm getting hits out of this. So there's so much juice.
And there's emotions, high emotions all
the
time.
And the stakes are high.
Super high.
The stakes are high. I don't care if it's National League. I don't care if it's Sunday League. The stakes are high. So yeah, sport and voiceover, man. That's it. And I'd like to do a bit more voice acting, and I obviously I want to be on the TV. That's what I want to do.
This is big. I love it. And putting them affirmations out on the camera, man. He's saying it. It's clear.
Yeah, I just think, listen, for too long, I think it was also like living in London, I became quite stagnant, and I think that don't let anyone bundle you into a box, or don't spend too much time in one place, I think, as well, because you begin to believe what other people think about you, and you need to take yourself out of that and actually realise that the world is huge, and like if you've got a mobile phone and a phone charger, you can do anything you want.
Yeah, it's mad. Yeah,
as I said at the start of it, you can be a guy that is in Estonia, in India, Belarus. You can be Timbuktu. If you've got content, just go make it. And again, I'm not like some 100K influencer, but this is the most joy and success I've had. So
I'm happy for you. I'm happy that you're in your moment of good energy, in a happy place.
Yeah,
that's very important, bro.
Yeah, and I think as well, when I was saying like about mental health, I think once you become to focus on one thing, you'll be better for it.
Yeah.
And when when you're trying to like be an octopus, and have your hands in everywhere, it's just it's not good for anyone.
Yeah, then you got your whole personal life going on as well. It's in the background.
You're spreading yourself. So at least with one focus, you can be like, let's begin something here, and then we can begin to make some money from it.
Yeah, it's just man. You got to believe in yourself, people, man. Believe in that thing that you feel like. Sometimes belief, people feel like they don't go fully in.
No,
They try to go the other way when it gets a bit challenging, it gets a bit tough.
And I know we're wrapping up, but I just think that's why I love TikTok so much. And I think you've always got to be thinking, oh, right, there could be another platform soon, but hopefully TikTok has 2-3 years or whatever still. But I love it because it's so raw, it's so DIY. Some of the best videos they're shot in a 5110. Like there's no like and people always say this, but it's right. Instagram, people cannot be bothered with it anymore because everyone was like doctoring and falsifying who they were, and we're only sharing the moments. Whereas like TikTok, people overshare about their sex life, about their mental health, about what fetishes. And granted, I'm not going to go down that far a line because I'm quite a private person, but I just think that if anyone's not on TikTok, you're not late to it. You can get on it, but find something and just keep banging it out. Do a video every day.
Video a day keeps the social media followers, following you, man. Keeps you up.
Yeah, exactly. Find your audience and use the right hashtags. And
it's funny that because I was looking for a rhyme. I was like social
no, I think you're going to get. You're going
to say like
an apple a day keeps the doctor away. Yeah,
I was thinking of something. Yeah, I was waiting for it. I've had it in my head.
Yeah, you had it, and then it flew. But
no pun.
No. Listen.
What do you think about on the wrapping up though? What do you think about the traveling aspect of the game? Are you a man that want to travel and see different markets?
Yeah,
America. How they do things over there and this kind of thing. But it's interesting. I noticed like when I done some just presenting out in America, like when I literally, as you said, just grabbed my phone. Yeah. Like I was just in LA and like had a friend of mine, Sophie, big shout out to her, amazing radio plugger, just like, yo, you're in LA, I want to hook you up with all these artists. And I just held like 3 press days in like Dream Hollywood Hotel. And then like I was ranking up all of these artists that now have gone on to become like huge global stars like Coi Leray and people like that. And I got them early, like, and it's like, and it was getting a lot of traction. People, oh, you're in LA, killing it, doing that and that. It's like it's interesting when you travel, you see the perspective from your homeland,
exactly
how you're doing, which is another kind of interesting marketing angle of the game. Travel around.
I think if anyone gets the opportunity, I don't care where it is, because you'll learn something. And if it means taking a bit of a hiatus from your job, go for it. I obviously only spent like 4 months in Mali, so it wasn't like I was discovering myself in some remote area in the world. But there was growth in that. But I met a guy last Thursday, which was when Rangers were playing that first leg of the Europa League against Red Star Belgrade. And his name is, I think it's Thogden, who's a big YouTuber, a big football YouTuber. He goes everywhere. He's a young guy. He's 20 years old. Thursday night, he was at the Madrid game. Wednesday night was at Madrid versus PSG. And then Thursday, he was in Glasgow to watch the Rangers. Then on the Friday, he was in Ireland watching an Irish derby, Shamrock Rovers versus Bohemians, I think it was. And he gets to travel everywhere, presumably because he's a crazy amount of followers and he must have sponsorship.
Yeah.
But if you do have a chance to go somewhere, or even if it's like a month and you're going back to the motherland or whatever, take a camera and like, because your footage for your audience, if you're getting that over there, you're gonna have a bigger. I believe you're going to have a bigger story to tell over there for your audience that are here. Because which I noticed for people that are doing really well in football vlogs is the people that can't travel to these countries that are from Tokyo and whatever, people that just don't have the money to travel. These football vloggers are giving people an opportunity to see what it's like to be in the stadium, what it's like to speak to the fans. So anyway, yeah, if you get the opportunity to go, and you know, as I said, hopefully manifest it. I will manifest it. I would love to go to Qatar. So
big up. You will, man.
Let's see. I mean, to be honest, though, you know, there's a lot of conflict in terms of human rights. So I don't know.
Anyway, bro, you know, it's always a pleasure. How long have we been chopping up for? I swear more than an hour or something like that. I feel like time flies. What are we saying?
Oh, we'll wrap it then.
Time flies when you're having fun.
Yeah, exactly.
Shout out to my guy Gully. Let them know all the social platforms, bro. One more time, man.
Yeah, listen, predominantly, obviously TikTok, Gully Talks, Gully Talks, and get me on Instagram, DJ Gully UK. I'm still doing my DJ bits.
You done that, all of you. That's all. Before we wrap up, though, I didn't get mentioned to that. The DJ, the Nighttown gigs.
I'm no longer at Nike anymore, but I had a good stint there for about 6.5 years. Good people there. Big up Hits, big up everyone that gave me an opportunity. That was a great experience in terms of working with a big brand. I probably didn't utilise it as well as I could have, but again,
get discount.
I mean, big up everyone that asked me for that discount. I no longer get it. So yeah,
I feel like a waste, man. 6 years, I know you. I didn't ask you once.
Well, my Scottish people up there, they were like, "Oh, you stopped working at Nike?" He's like, "Oh, like I could have been getting discount," but I said, "Look, every month I had it. I never used it."
You know, all them years I used to hop in and see you working.
Now I'm like an anomaly. I'm wearing an Adidas top and I'm wearing Nike trainers and Hollister socks and ASOS boxer shorts. So yeah, I've a bit more flexibility. But yeah, Nike was good. But anyway, wrapping it up, just I don't know where I'm going with this, but I just say like find something and just bang it out, man. Bang it out.
Love DJ Gully, Dan Blake. His Voices with Blake. It's episode 4. Jojo on the camera. We're wrapping up, man. Peace and love, blessings, and we'll see you again till next time.
Listen and watch
Voices with Blake
on Dan Blake TV on YouTube.